Hi, this is Frank with a frank opinion. The events over the last week, and especially over the last 48 hours, should make it pretty clear to, I hope, a significant majority of Americans that Vladimir Putin ordered and was instrumental in the election of Donald Trump through an interference in our democratic processes, and an attack on our democratic processes. But we should not forget that we've had an internal, domestic-bred attack on our democracy led by the corporate elite and the wealthy elite of our nation. And that through dark money, through the significant unfettered use of campaign financing, etc., have basically chosen a group of indentured elected officials that are there to accomplish their bidding. It started with Buckley versus Vallejo, money is speech, the infamous Citizens United that basically opened up the possibility of corporations spending whatever they want, and McCutcheon versus the FEC, which allowed wealthy Americans to also significantly affect the outcomes of our elections. Also, aided and abetted by, in recent years, though one could argue that the Democrats in the Clinton administration led and paved the way for dark money in politics, and that's been my contention for many years, the Republican Party right now, both in terms of Mr. Putin and in terms of the corporate elite, are on the sidelines, aiding and abetting, complicit with attacks on our democracy. There is looming right now something that must be stopped, because internally and domestically it is a threat to every conceivable good, common good policy goal that we may have, and that is the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. His confirmation must be stopped. The Powell Memorandum, which I have alluded to and talked about in previous videos, has to be stopped. It cannot continue to have as its fruition, as its culmination, a clear majority pro-corporate, anti-worker influence on the Supreme Court. And the Powell Memorandum, for those that haven't read it, is, as I've indicated before, the most brilliant plan I've ever read in all my years in public service. And it launches a very specific set of things that the corporate sector has to do in order to develop complete control over our domestic and foreign policy. But the key point here, relative to Brett Kavanaugh, is the paragraph as follows. Under our constitutional system, especially with an activist-minded Supreme Court, the judiciary may be the most important instrument for social, economic, and political change, and you can add to that, in favor of corporations and not in favor of workers. And what that has managed to do since Lewis F. Powell Jr. was nominated to the Supreme Court by Richard Nixon and confirmed in 1971 is the following, which I have shown before. 3 lines: corporate profits at an all-time high, cash on hand at an all-time high, and wages stagnant. By the way, this is not only since 1979 to 2017, it turns out. There are current reports today that this stagnation of wages has been worse than formerly known, that it started much earlier than 1979, and that in fact it proceeds to this year, 2018. Current reports issued today indicate that workers' wages, on average, have gone down from last year to this year, notwithstanding the outrageous Trump tax cuts. How do we stop this? regardless of what Chuck Schumer says and Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and Kirsten Gillibrand and all the Democratic leaders, most of which are hoping to run for the presidency, they will not be able to do it given current Senate rules. They won't, unless they significantly change the mindset and the courage and the patriotism of some Republican senators. Barring that, there's nothing that they can really do. But we can. I've said before that we are too fragmented in terms of the issues and the goals and the vision that we see for our country. The Medicare for all people, the gun control people, the racial justice, Black Lives Matter, the fight for 15 for a living wage, the DACA, immigration reform, the children separated from their parents on the border, the climate change activists, and there are many more, consumer activists, etc. We have to get together. There has to be unity. There has to be an understanding that every one of these is a policy that promotes caring for one another, caring for fellow Americans, caring for immigrants. The key word there is caring. And that's what the common good policy should be all about. If we all do that, and what I would submit is that the Bill McKibbins of climate change call up the Linda Sarsours of the women's movement, call up the leaders of the Black Lives Matter, call up Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico and here, call up immigrants, etc., and have a summit, not like we just had in Finland, a summit in Washington that talks about over a 3 to 5 year 5-day period, what can we do together? How do we fight this? How do we mount a European style movement and action that halts the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh as a first and necessary goal? If he gets on the Supreme Court, you can kiss decades of work, of activism down the tubes. He has to be stopped, and there's only one way to stop it, and that, I suggest to you, is by all of our good works groups aligning themselves and getting together. They have to educate fellow Americans with facts, not with conjecture, not with opinion. Middle America does not get information because of Sinclair Communications, because of Fox. I've been there. I've traveled through at least 10 states, talked to people. They do not get the information as to what the current administration and previous administrations is doing to them, doing to their daily lives. They need educating. Organize locally and nationally, and then act. There is no substitute for action. Again, Brett Kavanaugh cannot be allowed to be confirmed to the Supreme Court. The only way that I can see to stopping that and to promoting policies for the common good is to unify. Thank you.